Hey yo, it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew for a very special video. So we got Spigs, Anthony, and we got Dean or Alpha Dean. And Dean, why are we here today? Who's this lovely gentleman below me?
We've got the illustrious, magnanimous, awesome, wonderful, and just downright prolific Sean K. Reynolds. He's the man at Monte Cook Games that I first met when I first started out getting into the Cypher system pretty heavily. He was a great doorway in. I'm not even going to go into all of his background because that's just way too much. I'm going to hand it over to him and let him tell you about it. But everybody knows he does draw, he sings, he moderates, and he does all sorts of other cool things, especially creating RPGs. Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself if you don't mind.
Well, I'm Sean Reynolds, and I'm a designer and developer at Monte Cook Games. I've known Monty for 22 years now. He and I worked on projects like Numenera and Full of Darkness and Ghostwalk and 3rd edition D&D. And yeah, I've got a gaming resume as long as my arm and a lot of stress to make me lose my hair over the past 20 years.
Awesome. All right, Anthony. So you said you had a couple of questions to ask Sean. What you got for me?
Yeah, first off, hi, Sean. Thanks for coming. And trust me, I know your resume is about way longer than your arm because I was doing a little research prior to this interview. And now your catalog is super extensive. And, that leads us into our first question. How long have you been in the industry, and did you always know you wanted to be part of the tabletop industry and in whatever capacity that what field you chose to choose?
I started working for TSR in '95 as their online guy, a webmaster position, and I started doing a little bit of freelance for the RPGA about a year after that. So going on 23 years now. I did not expect to be doing this as my career. I actually have a degree in chemistry. I was going to become a chemistry teacher, and I just got very much sidetracked by working on games.
Nice. Awesome.
That's a great sidetrack to have, though.
I mean, it's funny because people ask me, that's something you ask when somebody's in the industry, they say, well, how do I get into it? Because you got into it, how do I get into it? I'm like, well, start by becoming TSR's webmaster, and then...
Nice. First, you need a chemistry degree, and then
abandon it.
Well, it's really unusual because, I have a degree in hard science. Bruce has a degree in biochem, and we're very unusual. Most people who are writing RPGs have degrees in literature or journalism or English or creative writing or history or things like that. And Bruce and I are we do chemicals, yay!
Hey, what's funny? I'm starting to do this whole writing thing. And I have a degree in computer engineering. So maybe there's something to be said for us hard science people.
Well, that sort of study does lend you to thinking logically and how to put things together in a sequence that other people can understand and just build stuff that has a process that works. I don't claim to be, the most florid writer out there, but I make it work.
So yeah, that'll help us lead into the next question with with how long you've been in the gaming industry. But how long have you been with Monte Cook Games specifically, and what brought you there?
Well, I've been a full-time employee of MCG since, this is 2019, so since 2016 May. But I have worked for them a little bit before that on a freelance basis. I wrote one of the adventures for Gen Con a few years before that. And Monty actually asked me to develop the original Numenera core book because after working together on 3rd edition D&D and Ghostwalk and other projects, Monty knows that my brain is very much like a machine and figuring out questions of, hey, this thing doesn't fit in this particular way. And oh, the Glaive has a bunch of melee abilities every tier, but not every tier has a ranged ability, so we should do something about that. So he asked me to develop the Numenera core book. So that's 6 or 7 years ago that we've had a professional relationship with MCG.
Nice.
Pretty nice.
So I always like to ask these questions. It's is there a favorite project that you've ever done, or are you working on completing something that is like near and dear to your heart?
That is such a hard question because, like, I've worked on so many weird projects for different things and different reasons, and there's fun aspects to all of them, and it's really hard to go and say this is the most favorite one of all of them that I've done. And when you consider that I have, the next 3 or 4 projects that I'm working on are already on my schedule, I know, like, one of the problems that I have as a designer is I'm working on the current project, but I'm excited about the next project. And I'm really excited about the next project. So the next thing, and I'm like, oh, that's the thing. And then when you get to that one, you're like, okay, I've done all the cool bits, and now I have to do all the miscellaneous bits. Oh, but that next project after that is really, really cool. I don't know, if I were to make a short list, I would probably say the 3rd edition Greyhawk source book that I did all the gods for.
Nice.
Forgotten Realms campaign setting, which was just this incredible labor of love where we just took the new rules and said, let's make the realms embrace this. And I got to work with Ed Greenwood, and this was a really talented team of people. And then the Numenera core book, it was really awesome to just work with Monty in a professional capacity where I wasn't working for a big company and he had his own company, and we could just kind of like discuss things. And I was looking at all the different directions he was taking the game design, which was very different from the regimented sort of 3rd edition and Pathfinder stuff. It was just a really fun, creative exercise from a game mechanics and a world setting point of view.
Nice. Well, and there's one other thing I have to ask you about, because a friend of mine, he'd be upset if I didn't bring it up. He loves Greek and Roman stuff in your new Argonaut supplement. So he's like wondering if there's any possibility of getting something like that done up in Cypher.
It totally could be. It's one of the things of like, do I have the free time to do it? I mean, I have some other stuff that I haven't written yet that I would want to do up in Cypher. So the idea of going back to an older project and updating it, it's like, yeah, I could, but I only have so much free time. And again, the idea of, oh, this is this cool thing that I want to work on. I've already done this thing. I'd be much more likely to say, you really like this project that I did from 5 years ago? Let's talk a little business and see about you just getting my permission to update it.
That's definitely a good way to go about it. People love creating stuff for older things they like.
Yeah, cool.
Speaking of super cool projects, with the Best Game Ever Kickstarter fully funded, what can we expect the differences in the new Cypher core book opposed to the original version? And this is a 2-part question. Stay Alive. Do you have any little insights or secrets you could tell us that's going to be in that book? Like, are you going to do anything with horror and the horror rules or the shock rules that might be different from the Cypher core?
So, part 1, the revised Cypher system rulebook, and Bruce and I are working on that right now. Monty's not going to get mad at me if I say that one of the things that we're doing is we're taking a look at all the abilities from types and from foci, and instead of putting those abilities right there in the type and foci, we're just basically going to make like a gigantic, huge list of abilities. And kind of like how the 3rd edition Player's Handbook has all the spells as one chapter. And so you're going to be like, the warrior, choose from these things. And it'll just have the names of them, and you can refer to the master thing, which means that all your abilities are described in one place. Means that 2 different types that have the same ability, you don't have to worry about, like, is the language exactly the same? Does the work exactly the same way? And it directly feeds into the section that Bruce is writing in the foci chapter about how to build your own foci. And it really says stuff like, hey, if you want to make a focus that's all about making an energy manipulator character like bears a halo of fire, well, at tier 1, here are some suggestions for the kinds of abilities you should get, and then it'll list examples. And you can refer to that chapter. And
That's cool.
You don't know, I saw Dean's face. We both have like the church bells ringing in our heads right now, because it's like, that sounds so awesome right now.
You have to realize this is truly, I've told this to other people, and I think I even told Monty, I was designing something, a game, a system, and it was, but Cypher just started doing everything I wanted to do. So it was like, oh my God. And then what you're just saying, that was the core of my idea. The core of my idea was to have basically a warrior type, an adept type, or an adventurer type, to cover, the basic archetypes. And that was the whole thing. It was basically you have a ton of abilities and, warrior types, melee and combat, stuff like that was cheaper for them to buy those abilities. But magical types were, and so on. So everybody could buy what they wanted to build the character they want. So I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm happy. I'm dancing the jig on the inside.
I know Stay Alive is a little ways off for you to start working on, but will you be adapting the horror and shock rules?
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff that's in the Cypher system about the horror genre, we're going to expand upon in Stay Alive. And a lot of what Stay Alive is going to be doing is having like at least a page or a spread on so many different categories of horror. Like there's going to be a spread about body horror. There's going to be a spread about zombies. There's going to be a spread about like the nature of running a vampire game or a post-apocalyptic horror game, or, hey, clowns. Why are clowns scary? And there's going to be another chapter. And again, this is all kind of like ephemeral because we haven't actually designed it yet. And so the specifics of how it's laid out in the book may change. But there will be a big section that says, here are a whole bunch of things you can put into a horror game that'll escalate different kinds of horror and enhance this sort of experience. And so when you read the section on clowns, it'll say, do this, and do this, and do this. When you read the section on zombies, it'll say, do this other thing, this other thing, this other thing. And so,
that is pretty
again, you're not repeating that same information over and over again, because you don't need a rule for, this is how clowns are scary. This is how zombies are scary. You just need a rule that says, this is how a scary thing scares you.
Right.
Specific flavor for that. It just means that you're getting more bang for your buck in terms of not having to pay for repeat information.
Sean, I just have one suggestion. Tell Monty, please do not do another Kickstarter this year. Because when stuff comes up, we're going to need some time to absorb this. I mean, as you can see behind me, I have a lot of Cypher stuff over here, and there's more coming, and it's just glorious.
Oh, I feel that. My wallet feels that too. But just to move it along here, so we kind of touched on this jokingly earlier, but if you could give some actual advice to any of our listeners who are themselves interested in getting into the gaming industry, what kind of advice would you have for them?
Well, I mean, one is read other people's writing. Learn from their writing. Because if you can't write in a way that is clear, people are going to be frustrated with your game and not want to tell other people about it. And when you're new, the best way to get your name out there is to get some positive word of mouth. So work on your writing in small chunks, then you can work on big chunks. Find an idea or a topic that you are really passionate about. I mean, they say write what you know. Like find something, like if you really love psionics, write something about psionics. If you really love body horror, write something about body horror. And that passion, that intensity will show through in your work. And in this internet connected world, it's really easy just to put together a PDF of your writing, have somebody who has an English degree or a journalism degree, edit it, find somebody who can lay it out or just lay it out really cheaply yourself, put in some stock art or some public domain art, and put it up on Drive-Thru-RPG and sell it. You can do that as part of the Cypher System Creator Program and use the Cypher System rules. You don't even have to make your own game. Just put it out there, and then there's a thing on Drive-Thru where you can say, please send copies of this to all reviewers, and it'll just automatically send it out to all the people on the Drive-Thru connection list who say, yes, I want to review new products. And you might only get a 5% hit on people who actually read your thing and respond about it, but people read reviews, and that'll get your name out there. There are a lot of people who are third-party authors for Pathfinder who just started doing their own stuff, and now they are known for doing, like, hell, Jason Nelson of Legendary Entertainment was a guy who competed in RPG Superstar for Paizo. And then ended up he didn't win, but he got noticed enough that he started doing some freelance for them. And then he started writing his own stuff. And now he's got so much of his own stuff that he ended up making his own company. He's like, I don't have time to freelance for Paizo anymore. I'm full-time running my own little game publishing company.
Nice.
No, that's the path nowadays. Is you don't need an office. You don't need to spend money on a workspace for a team of people. Everybody's got distributed networking. Sit down, work on something you're passionate about, and find other people who can do the work that you can't do, whether that's editing or layout or art.
You know, that's awesome advice. And honestly, I didn't even realize that you could do that with, you know, sending stuff just to the people who review it on drive-through. You know, most of my people, I've gotten reviews, but it's like everybody on Cypher Unlimited. If I say I put something out, they go get it. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm going to do that too. Add that to the list.
And so to essentially break down your advice here is just a joke from our last video. Get yourself a Troy. The guy who can't do what you can't do, he can do that for you.
Exactly. So Monte, Sean, you know, you work with Monte Cook, Shauna Germain, and Bruce Cordell. I mean, that's a creative imagination powerhouse right there. I mean, that's got to be like awesome. What's it really like being, you know, what's the creative catalyst to get you all you guys together like that?
I mean, we're all very, like, we like to read a lot of weird stuff and watch a lot of weird TV, and we have our own Slack for MCG, and we have a separate Slack for the design team to discuss each of our projects. And we're always just saying, oh, there's a really cool show on Netflix, or this movie that I saw, or this obscure thing, or read this comic. And so we're always just kind of sharing our interesting stuff that we've found. If you look at my Twitter, I share a lot of weird things on Twitter that are like, oh, this is really inspirational for Numenera or for Invisible Sun. We do that internally as well. We're always sharing ideas. We're always talking. And every week we meet either online or in person to discuss the current project and the next project. And a lot of it is just brainstorming, and a lot of it is just riffing on crazy ideas and discussing what we want to do next. And like Bruce and Monte and I have known each other since 1995, and Shauna has been part of this since 2012, I guess. So we're all very comfortable with each other. We all know that we can say something that isn't the best idea, but it's kind of like the rough kernel of idea. Basically, we don't have to worry that someone's going to be like, that's stupid. They disagree on how to do the particular aspect or how to spin it or whether or not it suits a particular project. But it's a no judgment zone of let's throw out some really cool things, some really creative ideas, some really random ideas. And the random thing that I say that I don't have a complete thought in my head about it, but just like I got 5 words that kind of make sense a little bit, that might spark something in Bruce's head or Shauna's head or Monte's head. And they go, oh, this needs to be like this. Hold on. And Monte will go to his shelf and like, here's this weird book that I have. Use this as a reference.
Nice. You guys are very inspirational, all of us. I can tell you that.
Absolutely. That sounds like a wonderful creative space to play in. And that's really lucky to, you know, for you to be part of that. But you recently wrote a very educational article on OneShots, on running OneShots on the Monte Cook website. You know, besides the jewels that you put into this article, are there any other tips regarding OneShots you would like to talk about? And
I only had 2 weeks to write that article, but it's brand new in addition to that.
And is there a specific genre you prefer to run OneShots in?
I mean, the thing is, if you're going to run a one-shot, you want to have fun, and you want the players to have fun. And so you need to be playing something, you need to be running something that you really enjoy. And whether that's something that you've never run before, but you're really, really excited about it, or it's something that you've run and read so many times that you don't even need to look at the book anymore. Like, if that's in your heart and that's in your head, again, like I said, write what you know. The passion that you feel for that game and for that setting is going to come out, and it's going to be infectious and get all the players really excited about it. So if you're not excited about it, don't try running it. Pick something that you know you're going to like. In terms of like what my favorite for running is, I grew up reading a lot of science fiction, fantasy, and a little bit of comics, but fantasy has always been where my heart is, because there's an aspect of science fiction and of comics that, like, this is kind of based on real life plus something. And you're like, oh, this is real life plus superheroes, or this is real life plus interstellar travel. Whereas fantasy is just like, no, this is never going to happen. So it's just going to be crazy, and I get to think about wizards and dragons, and that's what I'm
It really was an excellent article, and we're going to post a link to the article down below so all our members and whoever's viewing this could check it out as well.
Yeah, definitely, people. And yeah, we say it all the time. No matter how long you've been doing this, you can always learn something. Read, read, read. It'll expand your horizons unbelievably.
Yeah. And it's okay to make mistakes.
That's a really good, yeah. You learn more from your mistakes than your successes.
The more games you play, the more likely you're going to have some like rules bleed as things cross over. Like a great example of this is in the Cypher system, you have your 4 rests per day, your 1 action, your 1 hour, your 10 hours, and your 10 minutes. Those are in order. And in Invisible Sun, you have a 1 action, a 1 action, a 1 hour, and a 10 hour, I think. And we were playing on Twitch. We were playing Numenera on Twitch. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to take my 10-minute rest action. And Monty looks at me and is like, did you take your 1 round rest action yet? And I said, no. You can take them out of order. Numenera, you can't. I'm like, oh, I felt dumb for a second. But then I realized, you know what? It's okay for people to see that even the people who write these games make mistakes in playing them. It's okay to make a mistake in the game because it's just a game.
Exactly.
Right?
But even if Monty wouldn't have caught the mistake, it still wouldn't have changed the game. Yeah, so mistakes happen.
Yeah.
You move on.
And yeah, just to piggyback a little about what we were talking about earlier with the Kickstarter. So you guys recently had a lot of success with the the Numenera 2 Kickstarter, the Invisible Sun Kickstarter, best game ever. So what are your guys' secrets to running a successful Kickstarter? And is designing for a Kickstarter any different than designing just a book that you're gonna sell with the idea of keeping like stretch goals in mind? You might have to write new material or stuff like that. So yeah, let's hear a little bit about that.
I mean, the secret to running a Kickstarter is that you have to run a Kickstarter first. Like, there's so much you learn in your first Kickstarter. You're like, oh, God, I wish I'd known this before I'd done that ever again. Like, you can always, whenever someone does a Kickstarter for the first time, and if you've participated in a lot of Kickstarters or backed a lot, you can recognize those newbie mistakes. Like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Dude, you need to charge for shipping. No, don't do that. Oh, it's going to be so bad. But you got to roll with it. And MCG has done, I think, 11 Kickstarters now, and we learned something.
Trust me, we know.
And I mean, right after Monty and Shauna did the Numenera Kickstarter, which was freakishly successful, nobody had any idea. You have to remember the original Numenera Kickstarter, the funding goal was $20,000. And that was like a 244-page black and white book. And the book ended up being 416 pages with a small movie and blah, blah, because it hit $100,000. And Monty's like, I have no ideas for Kickstarter goals anymore. Stretch goal, we'll make a movie. No idea. But over time, he's refined this, and he's just like in the same way that I have a crazy robot brain for game design sort of stuff, Monty has the same sort of stuff for figuring out what to do next in a Kickstarter. And it's possible to go and plan out your stretch goals and your add-ons for your Kickstarter, but you need to have some sort of flexibility, because if you say, okay, we expect to make $10,000 and then we're going to have a stretch goal at 15 and at 20 and at 25, and if that first day you hit $30,000, you're like, okay, then I guess I adjust those up by $14,000 and $220. It's like, you just have to be flexible on how things go. It's just, if somebody wants to do a Kickstarter, I definitely recommend doing a small one first. Like, hey, don't kickstart your 500-page book, kickstart your 32-page supplement. Learn that, then take it to the next step.
It definitely seems like it can get overwhelming very quickly, especially if your stuff is popular or catches on. Yeah. You get those stretch goals almost immediately.
And it's funny, we have a little internal betting pool of like what a particular Kickstarter of ours is going to do at the final. And like Monty and Bear are actually really, really good at picking like the general within about 5 to 10% of where the goal is going to be.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Bad estimates there.
That's pretty cool.
Monty knows what he's doing.
Yeah, we're pretty. We've learned that. I mean, I think I told Anthony, I was like, I have reservations about your best game ever. I'm like, I don't know. This isn't gonna do. And then like, you know, it's like $500,000. Just like, what happened? So
you had a part two of that question, which was, is it different to design for a Kickstarter than it is for a regular release book? And I mean, yes, it is, because in my experience, when I was designing for books that weren't Kickstarters, that was for Paizo or for Wizards of the Coast, and we just knew, okay, this is about how many copies of a book we expect to sell, and we know that our audience is looking for this, and so we're going to make that. Kickstarters really let us say, I think it'd be cool to make this other thing. What do you think about this weird, crazy ass topic? And if the interest is there, then people will go and pledge for it. And we say, cool, let's make that. And if they're like, yeah, we're like, okay, we're not going to make the, you know, the Kickstarter about where your dragon is actually a goat and you are on somebody's head. And so it's just like, you know, there's good ideas and there are bad ideas. And the Kickstarter lets you figure out, okay, we've got, especially as the backer levels and backer kit lets you know that we have, you know, 1,000 people that chose this book versus 5,000 or 10,000 people that chose this book. It lets us kind of figure out how much of a fringe topic we're on.
Gotcha.
Like once the book is funded, yeah, that's what we're doing. So I'm going to have a little chapter on clowns in the horror book.
Nice. All right. Now,
I'm gonna start working on my It adaptation one shot for the Cypher Unlimited Discord server very soon.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
We, you know, MCG's made a real big deliberate effort to, you know, get a larger footprint in the streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube. What's your opinion on actual plays, you know, with this new craze? Do you have any feelings towards that?
So I don't really watch them, but I get that in tabletop and in video games, a lot of people, like, they don't have a group, or they don't have the opportunity to play this game, or they don't have the skill to play this particular video game, but they love watching other people play. And it's like watching a TV show or a movie to them, and they get to know the players, they get to know these characters, and they love it. And that's not the kind of entertainment that I'm really into, but I and everyone at MCG is very much, hey, if you like that, that's awesome. You know, you be super excited about that thing, and I'm glad that you're excited about that. So the fact that there are all these people streaming different video games and different tabletop games, I think that's incredible. And so it just really helps. It helps show that there's a lot of creativity out there that is not being published in a mainstream way. Like, we just, on the MCG channel, there's a game, people are doing vampires. It's the Lost Girls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Vampires set in the 1980s. It's kind of a take on the last Boys movie, which is great. You know, like, why is not somebody writing something about that? Like, last year or the year before, there was a game, an RPG called Kids on Bikes, which is just like Stranger Things and other like spooky stuff like the Monster Squad. It's like, of course, we all grew up watching that sort of thing. Why are people not doing games about this? And it makes the community of gamers, it makes people who are kind of gamer adjacent, who would really like to be doing this stuff, realize, hey, you know what? I have the same interest in that sort of thing. I could get into gaming. I might not want to be a streamer, but I could hang out with my friends. We already talk about movies and TV shows. Why not? Let's get together and have a game about that. I think it's really strong and positive for the hobby in general to see so many examples of things just like Callisto 6, King and Stardew. They are so popular. Like, they're basically movie stars, and they're on Twitch. Like, that is amazing. And so these people are just like, yeah, gaming is now mainstream. And as a person who grew up in the 80s during the satanic panic of AD&D, that's just a fantastic shift away from all that.
Yes, it is. Awesome.
Your guys' actual streams are very entertaining as well. Both the Invisible Sun and the Numenera one that you guys put on YouTube and Twitch.
Yeah.
So your guys are very entertaining as well.
I try.
Well, so this is where we get to the part of basically the end of our interviews. We do rapid fire questions. You know, we're just gonna throw something at you and you know, give it back to us. So, Anthony, start us off.
Okay, Sean, you ready?
I'm ready.
Player or GM?
You know, I used to be the GM all the time, and then I got out of the habit, and so I have just Mr. Player for like 90% of my gaming related time. I'm running the Invisible Sun game for the rest of the team right now, which is really, really cool. But for the most part, like the last 10, 15 years, I've just been a player.
All right, so pull punches or TPK, wipe the party. What's your choice there?
If players are like going out of their way to do something really dumb and that's against the interest of what their characters really want to be doing as a character goal, then sure, it's appropriate to have a character die or have all the characters die. But I think it's a smart GM who finds a way for those characters to keep playing in a particular way. Like in Monty's Tallest game that he ran, he had 2 different Tallest groups. One of them I was in, and then the other one was a bunch of other people who were friends of mine. And very rarely we would kind of have a big mega weekend event where both teams would come together and do stuff. But in the group that I wasn't in, they went up against like, I think it was a vampire or some drow or something. I think it was a vampire. Yeah. And the vampire kicked their ass and killed them all. And he's like, I'm just going to turn you all into vampires. And so they spent several sessions as thralls of the vampire doing his bidding. And so they had to do these vampire missions. And they were finally able to go and get themselves cured and then like hide and then build themselves up. But like Monty's like, yeah, you know what? You did this thing. You were dumb. You tried to fight this foe that was too powerful for you. You got killed. I'm not going to end the campaign here. I'm going to put a cool twist and let you keep playing and see how you react to that.
Nice.
My answer is to be short, just so you know. That's what I do.
Online or in-person gaming?
Online is fun, but for me, the ability to just sit at a table and make faces at other players and like all that subtle eye contact and just have the experience is just so fun. There's like even if you watch the Raven Wants What You Have, there's a bit where because Shauna's character and Bruce's character are rivals in Invisible Sun, and they have this thing where like, oh, if one person succeeds at something, the other character gets a +1 because it just encourages them to escalate and escalate. There's one bit where like one of them summoned a demon, the other one talked their way through it, and they were both trying to take credit for who got them through that situation, and they were just kind of like making eye contact and like sending like eye messages to each other. Meanwhile, Darcy's trying to talk, and she has no idea that they're talking to each other through their eyes this way. And finally, they just both started laughing, and Sean was like, "Sorry, we were having this one-up contest, visually about who was the better contributor to that thing." So that's what you when you're looking at a camera and having to look at 4 different people on the screen, as opposed to like right there at the table and they're there.
Gotcha, nice.
Announce the difficulty number or keep it secret?
I like to do a mix of both. Like if it's not really important, I'll be like, yeah, this is a 3. You think you have a pretty easy time of doing that. If some mysterious creature shows up and you want to like, okay, I'm going to make an attack at it. I'm like, okay, what do you get?
Definitely a good way to go about it. So salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
I'm a sugar fiend, so I'm a guy who brings like candy bars and Fig Newtons and things like that. I will have like some salted almonds as just to counteract, just so I have a little bit of protein. I'm not just gorging on perfect sugar, but he says I've got chai in this cup. It's not coffee.
All right, so RP, combat, or a good mix?
I like a good mix. I mean, it's funny because I'm an extrovert, and so I will just yak on and just talk about whatever. I can have a conversation with a complete stranger in a grocery store or a coffee shop or whatever. And I tend to play characters that are a lot like me in the game, but I am aware of that. And so for the past 10 years, I actually handicap myself and I play people who don't have good interaction skills. And so I have to force myself to tone it down. Like Seru in the Raven Wants game, he's fairly personable. But in our other playtest campaign that is now our ongoing Invisible Sun campaign, my character Callahan, he started with 0 points in interaction. And he's just like this nerd, right? He's an advanced nerd and doesn't know how to talk to people. And it was actually a character arc for me to actually become a better at interacting with people sort of person, because I don't want to dominate the conversation. I don't want to dominate the game table. So yeah, but I also love, throwing out the big murder spell now and then.
PDFs or physical books?
I move a lot. like from place to place, apartment to apartment. And I have had so many books that like, oh yeah, I got this when I was working at Wizards of the Coast or Paizo or TSR or whatever. And I have to lug this one of many hundreds of boxes from location to location. And I realized, oh, I haven't actually opened this box in the year since I moved the last time. So over time, I've gotten more and more in favor of having PDFs. I do get copies of every book that I work on, and so I still tend to accrue a library, but I like to just sign them and give them away, or give them as gifts to people. It's like, oh, you want to try a new one there? Here, try this. Oh, you're looking for an adventure? There you go. I like to give stuff to people, and that means I don't have to move it the next time I move. You need to search for stuff in PDFs. That's why I'm also handy for.
I remember your big giveaway. That was awesome. I don't know if you guys got it on that, but he did a giveaway in 2016, and he just gave away tons of stuff to people. It was awesome.
Like I had the shirt that they gave out when they announced 3rd edition D&D at Gen Con.
Oh, that's awesome.
I had like unique signed books from the entire Paizo staff. I had a core rule book for that. It's just like, you know what? I don't need this. And someone would be really, really excited to have this. All right, I'm just going to give it away to some random person on my friends list.
Yeah, because you sent me the Pathfinder book that's signed. The Pathfinder GM's book.
Yep.
The GM guide for Pathfinder. I got that one. So it's pretty cool. Just like Sean stuff.
Yeah. So let's keep it moving along. GM screen or open roles?
I don't use a GM screen, especially now that all my stuff is Cypher system.
No
I
rolling.
don't really have to worry about hiding my roles. So yeah, but especially as I improv so much when I run a game, like often it's like I'll have a map in my head and then the idea of like 3 different monsters and a vague concept of their stats. Like I don't have anything written down. It's all in my head. And so I don't have anything to hide. It'd be like, yeah, you can look at my screen area and a bag of M&Ms. That's like
it's a doodle of a banana in a Hawaiian skirt.
So and I always like to hear this one too. So are you a pre-written material guy or original content?
Wow, you actually got me speechless for a second. Normally when I run stuff, I just like to run things off the cuff and make it up as I go. And so I don't really use pre-written stuff. And for the longest time, I didn't even run things in a published game world. I left Wizards of the Coast to go work at Interplay on a Forgotten Realms D&D game. And the lead designer of that game said, okay, I'm going to sit down with the team and we're all going to play Forgotten Realms so that everybody who's like the artist, the programmer and everything, they'll know the world while we're working on this. And 2 funny stories relating to this is one, the designer of that is Josh Sawyer, who works for Obsidian. He's a brilliant game designer, works on all these computer RPGs. If you're not following him on Twitter, you should. Joshua Eric Sawyer. But one, he knew that I had never run a game of Forgotten Realms before. So it was just kind of funny that I had just written the 3rd edition Forgotten Realms core book, but never actually run a Forgotten Realms campaign. The other funny story from that is we were sitting down creating characters, and Chris, one of the artists, asked a question about how a feat worked. And Josh looks at me, and I just spouted off how the feat works. And then Josh nodded back to Chris, and Chris is like, why did you just take his word for how that works? And I said, because my name's on the book. And Chris closes the book and he looks at it. He's like, your name is on the book. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, again, I have the machine brain. I keep a lot of wacky stuff in my head. And I'm just good at pulling stuff together on the fly and reskinning things. Story number 3. I'm sorry, these are not short answers. So,
Don't worry about it.
My brother-in-law is J.D. Weicker. He and I worked together at Wizards of the Coast. He ran a feng shui game for his friends. One time he was telling me about this. And this feng shui game was set in Tijuana. And the game started, they were all in a bar, like just having some drinks in this Tijuana bar. And the door of the bar opens, this little cantina. And the ghost of the sheriff of Tijuana walks in and points at some guy in the bar and then vanishes. And the people are like, and that guy is like horrified and terrified. All players are like, what's going on? They go talk to the guy, blah, blah, blah. And they go do this campaign. And it turns out that the sheriff was murdered, and he suspects that, like the guy they pointed out was his son, and he suspects that his stepfather was involved in this other thing, or sorry, his uncle was doing all this stuff and all these manipulations and all this stuff going on. And they ran through this whole campaign, and they finally figured out all the stuff, and they ended it. And JD says, and that is the story of Hamlet. And so that what it was, instead of, you know, the king, it was the sheriff, the goat, and it was, you know, his brother, and all that sort of stuff. And just reskinning that, you'd never think that the story of Hamlet from Shakespeare could be the plot of a feng shui game set in Tijuana. That's where you're just like, oh, I had no idea that you would just change that.
And that's the beauty of reflavoring things, like we discussed in that other video we made. You can turn one thing into anything you want it to be.
Yeah, we did a video about just showing people how we could all take the same character and reflavor that character for any genre, for various genres, just off the cuff, you know. And just so you know, Sean, that's the other thing. You know, Anthony's probably going to say something in a minute, but we've been talking about it. We got to get you in a game of GM Roulette.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. We actually working on something for the Cypher Creator program called GM Roulette, where it's 4 players. Everyone gets 30 minutes to GM, and everything is using the Cypher system, of course, and everything is rolled randomly right before the game starts. So you roll the genre, you roll your characters randomly, you roll the ciphers randomly, and everyone gets 30 minutes to run the story.
Well, 35 minutes for the starter and 35 minutes for the ender. But
so
everybody,
the next person picks up for the last.
Yes, one. Exactly.
Right.
And see, what happens is you switch characters. So whoever is GMing first sets the stage. They, you know, get us going, and then just say Al's next in line. After, you know, I play, I get Al's character, and Al takes over as GM. You know, so it runs the gamut, and we've actually got 2 sessions.
Yeah, we have 2 sessions up.
Yeah, we have 2 sessions up. We're getting ready to record.
We should have we should have a 3rd one up shortly.
Probably, you know, but
there were 2 drastically different sessions. You know, the first one we rolled Fairy Tale, and I unfortunately, I don't know if it was unlucky or lucky, but I got to go first both times. So in the first session, I came up with a Candyland world, you know, like based on the board game so everyone played different variations of candy heroes. We had a mayor. We had Dean played a gingerbread soldier.
Gingerbread people.
And you know, since I started, I could basically screw everyone else because I could make this really difficult narrative that they now have to follow. So it was really fun. And the second time we got supers, so we did like B villains for, you know, you were like henchmen for a B villain, which was pretty funny as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it works out pretty good. So the rules will be up soon, and but I think we should get you guys in a game at Gen Con. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's been an awesome chatting with you, Sean. You know, thank you for coming on. We really, really appreciate it. You know, that you took the time to be here with us and answer our questions. I'm sure our viewers at home will appreciate it as well. And yeah, any last notes, fellas?
Just Sean, man. Thanks.
Yeah, this was very insightful. I learned a lot in this 1 hour just talking with you, and you're more than welcome to come back anytime you want.
Anytime, just invite me. No, I really appreciate the invite. I appreciate your questions. You guys have some really made me think.
And before we close this out, so Sean, if people are looking to find you online, like hear about you, do you have Twitter, Facebook? How would people go about reaching you?
I have a fan page on Facebook. It's called Sean K. Reynolds Game Designer. I don't post a lot to that, but it's there. And I have Twitter. I'm Sean K. Reynolds on Twitter. But mostly, if you want to hear about what I'm working on these days, it's through MCG, so Monte Cook Games. Although I do have some other projects that I do want to be publishing once I get my other projects in line. This year for the design team is actually looking to be a much more relaxed year compared to getting out Invisible Sun and 2 giant Numenera core books and everything else. So I may actually have some time to do some little side projects, like a thing I once posted a cover of called On a Steel Horse I Ride, which is kind of like a a Fallout-like experience as a tabletop minigame.
Nice.
And
Okay.
I'm a fan of the movie Moulin Rouge. I actually kind of want to make a little minigame called Children of the Revolution, where you are playing basically the Cypher system, but you have 4 stats: freedom, beauty, truth, and love. And so one important to your character, and you're just playing at the turn of the century, right during the Bohemian Revolution. Just, again, crazy weird stuff. Just all this time in my head, not enough math for it to get out on the paper.
So yeah,
Well,
we'll
Crazy
definitely,
weird is right up our alley. I was
definitely.
gonna say crazy weird.
You are amongst the, like, fellow weirdos, because I think that's why I've always enjoyed talking to you so much, because I'm always off on some other kick too. And these guys, it was fated that I find them. But again, thank you. All your information that you just gave us, we're going to make sure we're posted below in the feeds, people. So you can find Sean. You won't have to watch the video over and over again and play what he's saying. We'll put links down below. We're just happy that you came on, and can't wait to get some more of the MCG crew up here.
So yeah, thank you again, Sean. Thank you, Anthony and Dean, for being on with me, and thank you all you viewers at home. You guys are awesome. Thank you for making CU what it is, and from us at the CU, we will see you later.